Welcome to this World Art Day, organized jointly with UNESCO and the WHO through the Jameel Lab art organization. Right now we have Professor Nisha Sajnani from New York University who is with us. Thank you so much, Nisha, for being with us. Could you please share this welcome message that is the opening of our reflection on how art can be really a link to human dignity?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Gila, for the invitation. And I also extend a welcome to all of you who are celebrating creativity and the profound value of the arts, of artists, of arts practitioners during this World Health Day.
So could you please introduce yourself, since you are such a very active agent regarding art and human dignity, and explain us your wonderful work related to human dignity, please.
Well, thank you for that question. I'm the director of the program in drama therapy at New York University, where I also chair the Creative Arts Therapies Consortium and have co-founded and now co-direct the Jameel Arts and Health Lab, which was established in collaboration with the World Health Organization. In terms of dignity, much more to say there. I mean, I understand dignity as the right of a person to be valued, to be respected, and to be treated ethically. And I would say dignity has been a guiding value across my teaching and practice, as it calls our attention to how we relate to each other. And I would also say how we relate to the planet. It encourages us to move towards an inclusive way of working without prejudice, without bias, and acknowledges and validates each other's contributions. And if I think about my artistic practice, I'll just share a few images here. I would say that aesthetic experiences like creating and sharing a meal or community singing or play can bring us into this new relationship with each other. We have likely many examples of how the arts inspire people to interact differently than they otherwise might. So this is an image of a rain room in Sharjah, which is in the United Arab Emirates, where I had taken my students when I was last at NYU Abu Dhabi. And it's a unique installation because it's a place that actually seldom receives any rain. But on the day that we visited, it was actually raining outside and students were darting in and out of the rain trying to get shelter. But when we entered this building and entered this exhibit called the Rain Room, people started playing, interacting, running through the rain. It's raining outside, it's raining inside, but the aesthetic frame of the Rain Room completely changed our behavior. And when I look at my work and I think about that question of dignity, a lot of my work has been with communities who've experienced displacement or are in the process of restoring a sense of dignity in their host countries. And here, this is an image of a playback theater performance in which our playback theater company was working alongside members of the Rwandan community who asked us to organize a performance to commemorate the beginning of the genocide in Rwanda. And in more recent work, I'd worked alongside YASDA and Community Jameel, Google Arts and Culture, and the UN Special Envoy for Technology to create a permanent digital archive of Yazidi cultural heritage, featuring photographs, paintings, and films taken by Yazidi women survivors to preserve their heritage. The photo I had just shown you just a moment before, this one is actually of recent work with the Campfire Project, which is a wonderful group of artists and arts therapists working with Ukrainian children and mothers in temporary shelters in Moldova. So that gives you a bit of a sense of the kind of work that I've been doing.
That's very impressive. And what we see is that the intensity of the moment and a certain level of, let's say, situational intelligence, it's really all about creativity also that you're bringing. Could you tell us a little bit more about maybe measurements, how you can measure, well-being before, well-being after, and how can you be sure that what you're doing, creatively speaking, is helping the levels of well-being?
That's a great question. And it's actually the purpose behind the Jameel Arts and Health Lab, to advance research on the health benefits of the arts and to translate that evidence into conducive policy so that we can work towards mainstreaming arts interventions that we know have a positive physical, mental, or social benefit. And there are many different ways of measuring the impact of arts. We can talk about oral histories and the stories that people tell. People might create artwork in the form of arts-based research to document and to communicate the impact of the arts on their lives, the communities that they're working with. The Yazidi project, for example, involved women taking photographs of their own community, their own environment, and painting their own experiences. And you can think about that as a form of research as well, as people are sharing their experience through artistic means. And then, of course, we have more traditional approaches like qualitative interviewing or quantitative research, where we can track using measures that track aesthetic pleasure or that track anxiety or depression to see just how impactful a particular arts intervention might have been. And it really depends on the situation, and it depends on the context in which we're working. And of course, the willingness of everyone involved to be interested in exactly what the arts are doing in a particular space.
So what we understand is that, and Chris Bailey was talking about it, is that we cannot really measure something that would be automatically responding to a certain syndrome. But what we can say is that there is a level of feeling better because of a better inclusion, better living together. In terms of peace education, did you see that each time that you're doing an artistic process, there is like a magic that happen, you know, in terms of willingness together to go somewhere, having the same artistic goal?
I think in the best of circumstances, we see that when people have a shared creative task ahead of them, that you know, there's a kind of social cohesion that develops because we become an ensemble engaged in this creative work. And that creative ensemble, like in a theater ensemble, is like a microcosm for society, and it can be the best microcosm in the sense that everybody has a role and everybody has a contribution to make that's validated and supported and celebrated. And that's not always how it is out there in the real world. But of course, it can also be a hot pot for tensions as well, and for those tensions to be explored and maybe worked through in ways that also might provide support for the kinds of challenges that people face in the world outside the creative project, whatever that might be.
So what I'm very struck, you know, when I see this new lab that is supported by the World Health Organization is the diversity of techniques. You spoke about playback theater. We know that you're very active with theater, forum theater, you know, theater of the oppressed. Could you tell us a little bit more about, you know, this new lab that is supported by the Health Organization?
Well, the World Health Organization had published a scoping review in 2019 on the health benefits of the arts. And of course, it was picking up, as it was a scoping review, it was picking up on research that was already in play and had been published from around the world of different communities of researchers and practitioners sharing the impact of their work. And that kind of research has continued, whether it's in the medical humanities or community arts or arts and health or arts therapies. There is a body of work that's accumulating, a literature accumulating that gives us insight about just how valuable the arts can be to our health and well-being. And importantly, how we might be able to draw on the arts as maybe a lower cost option for supporting the health and well-being of communities, especially keeping in mind the very overburdened healthcare systems that we have. I say that with a little pause, because we don't want to be in a position where we're offloading the responsibilities of our healthcare systems onto artists necessarily, or and just say the arts are going to take care of it. That's not what I'm trying to say. I see a possibility here for us to work in partnership, where you've got the cultural sector and the health sector and the education sector working together, and of course across other policy bodies as well, because the arts have a lot to contribute. That's the main message here, and we're interested in knowing how and why and where and with who. Those are the questions that we hope to answer.
Yes, that's also a mini revolution in how we see health, how we define health.
Yes, I think the WHO's definition of health is quite all-encompassing in terms of physical, mental, and social well-being, but also thinking about health as the presence of wellness and not only the absence of disease. So, when we think about how we measure the outcomes of artistic interventions, we don't only want to focus on the reduction of deficiencies or perceived deficiencies. We also want to look at the presence of perceived wellness, the presence of joy, the presence of pleasure, and the capacity to cope.
What would be the message you would like to deliver, as this head of the Jameel Art and Health Lab, and also as, I would say, a professional who's seeing the world changing and maybe having a way to adapt ourselves with this situational intelligence? So that would be linked to a creative intelligence, artistic intelligence.
Well, there's a lot in what you said. First, I'll say I'm a co-director of the lab, so I co-head it, I co-lead it. We know that when words fail us, that art gives us this vital way to express and communicate our inner experience, which can make us feel less alone, which is really critical because we know that social networks, our social support systems are a significant buffer when it comes to overwhelming and stressful situations. We know that with its ability to connect us, engage us, and sustain us, the arts and arts therapies show great promise in reducing isolation and stress, in helping people recover their creativity, imagine a better future, put ideas into action, and feel alive again. So that's my main message, that we have in our hands, in our minds, in our imaginations, this great capacity to propel us into what lies ahead. And you really spoke to it when you said, adapting, that we're going to need the skills of artists to notice and attune to our changing environment and to adapt as needed, flexibly and creatively.
Thank you so much, Nisha, for this very interesting message that is warning us of the importance of arts, and especially someone who can maybe foresee different things because of plus imagination that we can all have if we develop it, artistically speaking. Thank you again for being here for the World Art Day.
Thank you.